This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and colder, it can really take a toll on how we feel. Maybe that means calling your grandma, writing a letter to your friend, finally grabbing lunch with someone you haven't seen in a while. And just like reaching out to a friend, starting therapy can take a bit of courage. BetterHelp makes it easy to start therapy. You'll be matched with a licensed therapist based on your needs and preferences so you can focus on your growth and goals. Not happy with your match? You can switch therapists anytime with no hassle. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether that's checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. And our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PFF. That's betterhelp.com/PFF.
We got a divisional game between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos here. So you want to start talking about the Raiders, or you want to start with the Broncos?
I think when you look at this Raiders offense, obviously you have Ashton Jeanty trying to get things going in the run game, and he adds as some dynamic play as a receiver as well. But realistically, we saw this last week against Jacksonville in the overtime game. This offense is all about Brock Bowers. You have to find a way to contain Brock Bowers. And look, the Jaguars really never did that. They escaped with a 1-point win in overtime over the Raiders, but he was unstoppable last week, and he's been unstoppable for a year and a half. A 90.5 receiving grade this year. He missed a couple of games, but still easily leading the league in receiving grade among tight ends. And I find it interesting that you don't really have a way, just one way to contain him, right? With a certain type of coverage. One of two tight ends in the NFL in the top 10 in receiving grade against both man and zone coverage. The other being Dalton Kincaid from the Buffalo Bills. And the Broncos against tight ends are just 25th in coverage grade. Those middle of the field defenders, especially lately, have given up some big games. The Giants tight ends really hurt them. Dalton Schultz had a good week against them last week, despite the Texans' struggles at quarterback. So I think that's priority number one right now. When you're playing against this Raiders team with Brock Bowers back healthy, you have to find a way to get 2 and 3 sets of eyes on this guy so he doesn't take the game over the way he did against Jacksonville last week.
Yeah, the Raiders have to just become much more multi-dimensional than what they are right now. Because you're right, Brock is an incredible talent. There's no doubt about it. But you have to be more than just Brock Bowers. He was almost enough for them to win it at the end of overtime last week. But you've just got to have more that you can lean on there. The offensive line's got to play a little bit better. You obviously have to stay balanced with Jeanty. And Jeanty got involved in the receiving game as well. But it's sort of ironic that you're trading away Jacoby Myers and you're also asking the rest of the offense to complement Brock Bowers somehow. And so we'll see what they're able to do there. You know, are they getting Jack Besh more involved? Are they leaning into more heavy tight end sets like we've seen them do throughout this season? But for me on the Broncos side of things, it really just is how Bo Nix starts these games. 3 of his 4 lowest first quarter passing grades this season have come within the last 3 weeks. And so this has been an issue for him recently where, you know, we talked about the end of the Giants game where that was crazy. And, you know, last week how they were able to really come on and play well in the fourth quarter. Nix was against the Houston Texans. But the way that they've been starting games has not been good. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember which opponent this was. Was it against the Giants? Can't remember which game this was, but his receivers had 3 drops. So, okay, like that's not necessarily helping the passing grade. It's not hurting him. It's not punishing him, but you go, okay, well, if those passes are completed, like does the grade look a little bit better? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't just because of the overall result. But for the most part, he is somebody who has not been reliable in the first quarter. And I think that it's not really one thing. I went back and I watched all of his first quarter throws. And there's nothing that I could really pinpoint. Like, there were a couple of times where I go, okay, you're looking too deep down the field. Like, you're not taking the stuff that's easy. But then there were other games when I feel like I wanted him to open it up a little bit more. So whatever that balance is, you know, having the right script to start the game for those scripted drives, if you will, and really just being able to get him in rhythm and execute things well, have a good plan for, okay, what's the second and third drive looks like? How are we building off of that? Because right now it seems way too erratic. It seems way too inconsistent. He's either, you know, not looking deep down the field and he's playing too conservative, or it feels like he's way too amped up and he's only looking deep, only trying to hit a big shot and a big time throw. So the balance of Bo Nix in the first quarter is really what I'm looking at the most in this game. Ultimately, I do think the Broncos win this one. It's in Denver. They're the team that's playing better. They've been more consistent. They got the better record this season. But I think that it could be close. I'm going to go Broncos 24, Raiders 20 here. What do you got?
I think the Broncos have a lot of advantages here. I think, number one, their defensive line is really going to control the game against the Raiders' offensive line that has struggled more than we thought it would, especially at that left tackle spot there with Stone Forsythe. The other thing, too, is I think the Broncos are going to get this run game going. The Raiders are really struggling in the middle of their defense, especially at linebacker with Devin White and Landon Roberts as their two main linebackers there in run defense. I think you could see J.K. Dobbins and maybe even R.J. Harvey have a big day as well. I like the Broncos a lot in this game, 28-14.